thing that people on Unique Access were really interested about is when I talked to Scarface, and he talked about first time meeting you when they were doing when you guys did In Too Deep. So how and why did you guys end up linking?
Oh man, I was always a fan of the Ghetto Boys. Shit, I've been listening to the Ghetto Boys since Grip It on the Other Level. So I was real heavy on the Ghetto Boys, and we used to bump into each other. Like I said, just like with Premier and Guru, we used to bump into each other on the road a lot. So we exchanged numbers. I think we had did the cover for The Source when it was him, me, and Spice on the cover. And from then, we had just became friends and exchanged numbers. And I was working on Music to Drive By, and I think they had came to town. I picked Facing them up, him and Bushwick. We used to just kick it like homies. They used to come to the crib, sit up, chill. And I was working on Music to Drive By, and I told Face I had this idea for this song In Too Deep. And he was like, fuck it, let's do it. I mean, we went, got hooked up with Slip. Slip did the beat, you know. Me and Face has always had a good relationship. I mean, from day one. Face is another cat like Primo. One of those cats that I've known since my career started, and I've always stayed in touch with. So he's a dude that I can call right now on the phone for nothing, for just what's up with you today? How you feeling? What you been doing? And I think I've built that rapport with cats like Scarface and Primo over the years. So he's a dude that I really respected as far as rap is concerned. And outside of just music and records or whatever, he was a dude that we could hang out. You know, I go to Houston, he picked me up, we go hang. He come to LA, he come to the crib and sit up. And so those are relationships that I think that are, lifelong withstanding when people that you meet and that you will have a lifelong relationship with. So he's a person that I can truly call my homie, my friend. I can hit him up, no hesitation, ask him for a song, whatever. If I was down and out, hey man, I need a place to sleep on the couch. I'm pretty sure, Face and Primo is cats that would extend their hand with no problem. So that's the relationship I have with Scarface, with Brad.
Right. Mr. Jordan.
Yeah, it did.
So,
exactly.
So with that too, at that point, off the top of my head, if I remember correctly, that was the first time you had done a guest appearance or had someone on a Compton's Most Wanted album that wasn't in Compton's Most Wanted or affiliated with you guys directly. So what made that
exactly? I mean, we were, because I wanted it to happen. I mean, Unknown controlled a lot of our shit, because we came up through Unknown. Everybody has went through the bullshit as far as that is concerned. We signed to an indie label, Techno Hop, and we got caught up in all that label crap bullshit. So basically Unknown controlled everything. So we basically didn't have an opinion, or we couldn't do shit. And as we matured and we started becoming our own men, we just wouldn't tolerate shit. So I wanted guest appearance. I've always wanted guest appearances on the records, but certain people didn't want that because payments or whatever, or they controlled the budgets or whatever that shit was. But we couldn't get guest appearances. So me having a relationship with Scarface, and at that time of shooting Menace to Society and recording Music to Drive By, I had a little more pull with the record label. So I insisted that he was on the record, and that's how it happened.
Okay. And speaking of more power, different things, I wanted you to explain the difference in the power of having a single on a soundtrack versus having your own singles. Like growing up in the hood, obviously Boys in the Hood had such acclaim first. But what difference did you see
Mm-hmm.
having a single that was the single from the soundtrack, in addition to everything else you guys were doing on your own? What did you see that was different, having that different type of push, that extra push?
I mean, soundtracks were large back then, you know, because they would, let's face it, they were tied to movies. And one of the aspects of promoting the movie was getting a killer soundtrack, and then you tie that soundtrack to scenes or whatever. So at that time, you know, coming off of movies like Colors with Ice-T, and then coming off of movies like Juice with Pac and whatever, it was very big for rappers to get soundtracks back then, you know. So bumping into John Singleton on the set, rest in peace, John Singleton, bumping into him on the set of Boys in the Hood, because I used to hang out with JD a lot from the Lynch Mob. Shout out JD. I got a chance to do Growing Up in the Hood, and it became like a large, it was my first #1 single because of the movie tying in and Cube and all that. So it it gave me a bigger push, it gave me a bigger promotion level, and it gave people more, you know, it brought in more fans because of what the scale of Growing Up in the Hood and the Boys in the Hood movie did significantly for Compton's Most Wanted. I mean, we had the #1 single in the country for Growing Up in the Hood. The movie, you know, was tied to Warner Brothers, so it gave us that newfound light that we wouldn't have gotten just being strictly underground artists. You know, it took us to the next level of more people hearing and understanding Compton's Most Wanted, what we were about. So being able to do that song on that soundtrack was tremendous for me.
And then what difference did you then see when you did Menace and having straight up Menace, but also being in the film as an actor? How did that change things?
Well, Menace for me was a little bit larger because for the fact that I had a role in the movie and that I had created the lead off single, which was straight up Menace. It just took it to another level as far as publicity and MC8 being able to get out. I mean, it started me touring overseas. You know, everywhere I went, everyone saw the movie. So, you know, it took me to a different place than what I was used to as far as being Compton's Most Wanted. You know, Compton's Most Wanted was me, Chill, Slip, Mike T. You know, we had always been together, you know, from the studio days to just hanging out and just whatever. But Menace took it to a level because it was my first solo outside of Compton's Most Wanted. It kind of took me on my own path of the MC8 solo career. So that's what I think Menace did as far as me doing the song and acting in the movie. You get me? It just took it to a larger scale as far as promotion and all that is.
So that was the first time you went overseas to do shows?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had never left the United States up until Menace. My first 3 albums I did nothing but tour here. So
Wow.
when I did Menace got me overseas to where, you know, I went and toured Europe for like a month. Maybe a couple of years later, I was in Japan. You know, I was all over the place after Menace, you know. Shout out to the Hughes brothers.
Yeah, it's amazing when you have a lot of momentum like you did, but then adding a whole separate set of momentum, it really it's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, because I was cool with just the Compton's Most Wanted shit. You know, music to drive by, and it's a Compton thing, the Straight Checker album. You know, to me I was like, hey, I'm good. You know, shit, a nigga from the streets in Compton. I'm running around crazy every day. Got 3 albums out, so to me that was significant. But Menace just took it to a whole new different level to where, like I said before, it took me to a point to where I had to start really maturing and really knowing how to deal with fans and people and, changing the transition of coming from the gang banging lifestyle and just being stuck in the hood all day, as far as to going out, meeting people, different elements, working with different people, different walks of life, different races, all of that. So it just made me mature a little faster, and it made me grow up and know, try to deal with the music business in a different aspect of just being a young dude from the neighborhood. You feel me?
And then around this time too, it was more Epic Records as opposed to Orpheus. So what change happened, whether it was musically, business, thought process happened making that switch to Epic?
Well, basically, the switch to Epic basically just took me to a place where I just felt we was going to get more promotion. It was a better situation as far as musically, as far as Epic had a bigger, had a bigger machine for the wheels to turn, so to speak. But unfortunately with Epic, we were one of them groups that they really didn't know what to do with us because of where we were coming from, what we were speaking about, the aspect of what Compton's Most Wanted stood for. So they really didn't know what to do with us over there. But, we had a nice run at Epic, transitioning from the independent, little label and going over to the major. You get a lot of other things. You get the magazine writes-ups and you get the good videos and the promotional tours and all that. But still, we were one of those groups that kind of didn't figure out what to do with us because they didn't know how to deal with, reality rap or coming from the streets or whatever. So, but I always respect the time I had over there because it was a good learning curve and it taught me a lot about the business.
Yeah, it's amazing that when we look back at this stuff, that these huge corporations that can sell so much couldn't figure out how to sell reality, gangster, street rap better. And still, you had gold records, even in spite of that.
Definitely. I mean, that was just the streets and the following that we had from the streets because of where we came from and what we stood for. So, people still were inclined to pay attention to Compton's Most Wanted and get the music and listen to what we were talking about. But had it been the time of today, we probably would have sold 10 million records and whatever, but it's just the time that we were one of those controversial hard groups that major labels didn't know what to do with. They didn't know how to promote. They didn't know how to reach the fans. And a lot of our music sold just on word of mouth.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Eiht, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Best with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gang-bang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.